I don't like podiums, but I like the microphone. There we go. So my name is Ryusho Jeffus, and if you can just call me Ryusho. I don't need the Reverend. I already know that. I am a Buddhist, and I'm also a board-certified chaplain. And I just moved from Charlotte, North Carolina, where I worked at Carolina's Medical Center, several of their hospitals. So let's see, I guess it's been 2017. Yeah, 2017, in April, I'd been losing a lot of weight. Okay, I'll hold the microphone closer. I'll swallow it. So in 2017, I had been losing a lot of weight. I get my medical care from the Veterans Administration as a disabled vet. And so my doctor was concerned. I lost 30 pounds in 6 months, and I'm small. I can't afford that. So she said, well, let's find out. Her first suspicion was possibly cancer. And so we lit myself up, took all kinds of dyes and everything, and it was an out-of-season Christmas tree. And then when all the results were in, my doctor called me in, sat down by her desk, and I found out that when a doctor draws a little flower on a sheet of paper to tell you about a tumor, that's not a good thing. So anyway, she said, you know, it's really small. It didn't meet the guidelines for any procedures, that they just were going to monitor it. So for a year and a half now, I go in quarterly to have CAT scan done on the little tumor. And the VA is about ready to consider it to be benign, which would be a good thing. But there's still a lot of uncertainty. And initially there was deep uncertainty. And I told people, what it was and what I was facing or potentially facing, and how I was hoping to deal with it. And I would tell people, partly jokingly, but partly seriously, that the one thing that this shows is that I'm human, I'm mortal. As Buddhists, we dwell on death a lot, not morbidly, but it's part of life. It's part of life's cycle. We're all going to face death, and I choose to face death head on, as opposed to backing up into it, being surprised by its presence. And so I would tell people, it'd be a shame if I found out now that I wasn't mortal, because think of all the things I could have done and gotten away with if I'd been immortal. And I've done some crazy things. So at first it was sad. I'm an author, and it sort of reminded me that I better get things in order to ensure that my writings continue to be available to the Buddhist community after I'm dead, and ensure that, my brother doesn't have a big mess to clean up behind me. Fortunately, no one's waiting for anything. So I'm fortunate that way. And then I got to thinking, people ask me, well, how's it going? And I said, well, after the first quarterly CAT scan and pulmonary, I said, well, it's sort of like an unwelcome house guest. I have this personal space issue and rule that no one can come visit me unless I know exactly when they're going to leave. And that's especially for overnight guests or longer. I have to know when you're going to leave. I mean, I'm serious. So, this is like an unwelcome house guest. I don't want it, but it's not leaving. And so we have this sort of arrangement. It behaves and stays quiet, and I continue to give it food and lodging. And so, here, a year and a half, I think I've got one more quarterly left. And then I'll just be on an annual cycle for review. So there's still uncertainty, but I feel within myself that that's the best resolution that I can come to. I'm not eager to die, but I'm ready for it, and it'll give me an opportunity to prove to myself whether my mental philosophy is in line, whether I'm integrated with my mental philosophy and my internal spiritual philosophy of being ready for this next chapter, this next phase of life. And that's how I view it. It's a phase of life. Death is another phase. And so, yeah, it's interesting. People relate to you differently. I found a lot of people say, oh, we're going to fight this. No, no, I have different needs. Since I have no one depending on me, my partner of 26 years has preceded me in death. It's just me and my dog. And so my needs are different. For me, it's quality of life and not quantity of life. I've had a wonderful quantity. Like one of the doctors said, well, you need to get rid of your dog. That's not going to happen. Well, the pet dander and stuff, can counteract with your, lungs, and it's not good environment. I said, no, that's not going to happen. The refrains of, we're going to fight this, were uncomfortable for me to hear, because I know that that's what they needed. They needed they needed me to fight, but that's not what I needed. And as a chaplain, all chaplains and spiritual care providers, you all know this, the needs of the patient versus the needs of the family and the needs of the hospital staff. And so we're used to dealing with all these different perspective of needs. And that's the most challenging is, exerting myself and saying, no, that's not my need to fight it. So I'm sorry if I ended up not meeting the qualification. I don't know if I have what kind of lung cancer, or if I have lung cancer, or what. I'm still in that uncertainty. But I think of it, I was always uncertain. I didn't know before I knew, and now that I know, I still don't know. So not much has changed. I'm still not knowing, and that's how we live, right? I mean, we all live in that space of uncertainty. So anyway, thank you very much. It was a pleasure being here, and thanks for the invitation.